Kevin Bemmel, and we're here in season 5 of our show. And we meet every Tuesday at 10 a.m. to talk about things related to professional success and wealth building and how we can improve our situation there too. Does that sound too fancy? I hope not. So today, we're going to be talking about how to use professional organizations and journals in order to improve your situation. And so I'm going to go right into this. There we go. Okay. So professional organizations and journals, and well, that's weird. It reformatted my my PowerPoint. Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, so for those of you familiar with the show, you're also familiar with the 3 pillars of attainment. This is the basis for everything we do here on the Way to Wow shows. And today we're going to be working here in the finances realm, but we'll also be talking about relationships, primarily friends and colleagues a little bit. So, okay, so I'm going to talk first about how to use professional organizations to enhance your career. And then after that, I'm going to talk about using journals to do the same thing. So there's 5 ways that, or there's 4 ways, I should say, that organizations can enhance your career. And then I'm going to talk about some best practices as those are pursued. So knowledge and learning, professional development, which you'll see are not the same thing, although you could certainly make the case, I suppose, that knowledge and learning is a subset of professional development, relationship building, other practices, other benefits, and then best practices. So let's go into the first one. So knowledge and learning, one of the best reasons to participate in a professional organization is in order to be able to surround yourself with people who are doing the same kinds of things that you're doing in the same industry, and therefore you can gather their perspectives on what's going on. So one of the things we want to know about in any industry are industry trends, right? So one of my primary businesses is the real estate business, and I maintain a number of friends and contacts in that business. And one of the reasons I do so is in order to basically have access to their knowledge, right, about what's happening in the industry. So what's reported in the newspaper, okay, and just, here's my, trusty Wall Street Journal, right? You know me, I read it. I read it every day. It's part of my work. So one of the articles in the business section of the journal was talking about data centers. Okay, and this is something that's been of interest to me for a couple of years now. So the reality is that what's published in the journal is probably old news to anyone who's actively involved in the data center industry. Okay, so by being involved in a professional association, you get news before it hits the general public. Okay. Next, you can improve your skills and qualifications. So, for example, as a professional fiduciary, I'm a member of PFAC, the Professional Fiduciaries Association of California. It's in its name, it's a professional organization, and PFAC has various chapters throughout the state, and they meet periodically. So, for example, I think it's next week, I'll be attending virtually a meeting up in Monterey, California, at which the presenter is going to be talking about tax matters related to handling trusts and estates, right? So that's by way of doing a couple of things. One is keeping up to date with industry trends. Obviously, taxation is an important part of handling any trust or estate, but also potentially at least enhancing my skills and qualifications. So now, in this particular case, I don't know the level at which they're going to be talking, although they're saying they're going to be talking at a pretty advanced level. Okay, so that being the case, then perhaps there is something new for me to learn there, which is one of the reasons why I want to attend. And you'll often see that, in some cases, an educational presentation may be for beginners. And if you're not a beginner, so then it won't necessarily improve your skills. On the other hand, you may be able to teach it. And so what I've found over the years is even if I'm teaching the basics of a subject, it's helping me to learn about it more deeply because I'm seeing that topic through the eyes of people who are viewing it for the first time. And so they have questions that oftentimes necessitate my sort of going back into the memory banks, so to speak, and drawing out sort of somewhat dormant information and bringing it back to the foreground of my mind, and that's a good thing. So other professional organizations may actually have qualifications or certifications that you can earn. So I've been talking to a woman by the name of Judith Pearson, who is a board member of an organization called the Independent Trustees Association, and they have a certification program as part of building this organization. Okay, the American Bankers Association, which is a very long-standing professional organization, also has a number of certification programs, one of which I'm looking at. So these are great. They're great. Yeah, I mean, they're a type of resource, sort of dovetailing on the third category, that you can take advantage of by participating in a professional organization. Okay. But even if you're not taking formal classes, just interacting with other people in your field. I realize in your field, and there's a picture of a field there. Sorry, it's the humor was unintended, I assure you. Just by interacting with other people, hearing about the challenges that they're having in their work, it will help you build your skills as well. Okay, so you get a new perspective on how a particular problem can be approached. Okay, and then finally, resources. I spoke about classes and certification programs. Those are a type of resource, but there are others. So there can be many professional organizations have libraries available to you. Oftentimes they're online. They have just general online learning resources. Again, talking about PFAC, they have a whole series. They generally speaking catalog the various trainings that they've done over the years, and you can go back and look at those, which is very handy. It's great to be able to review things. Those don't necessarily enhance your skills, but it's good to get up to date. Other resources. I'm going to talk about some other resources that are of a non-knowledge and learning perspective. Another professional organization in which I'm involved, the Society for Military History. So one of the resources that you get as a member of this organization is access to, I think it's called EBSCO Host. Basically, it's an online searchable database for articles related to military history. So if I were writing an article, I could go to that and I would be able to log on, and that's included in my membership. If I had to buy that membership in EBSCO separately, it would be very costly. So academic databases oftentimes, several hundreds, if not thousands, in some cases thousands of dollars, depending on the breadth of the database access that you have. So that's a terrific resource that you get being a member of the Society of Military History, if it's something that interests you. In this case, while it's a professional organization, I'm not a professional historian. I'm an avid lay historian, I call myself. For those of you who watch my other show, Business Lessons from the Military, so that has grown out of that. That interest in military history. So, okay. Anyway, I got a chat comment here from D Live. So I don't know. I guess they discovered my show. So anyway, knowledge and learning is one benefit from being part of a professional organization. Okay. Next is professional development. So one of the things about being in a professional organization is you have an opportunity to become part of leadership. Okay. And in some cases, you can become part of leadership pretty quickly. So, honestly, if I wanted to have a leadership role in one of the local chapters of PFAC, even though I've only been a member for about a year and a half, I probably could get it. Many of these organizations struggle to find leadership because you don't get paid for doing these jobs. Well, you don't get a monetary payment for doing these jobs. The remuneration you get is experience. It's the ability to meet people at a higher level. It's the ability to have a larger impact on your profession or your industry. Okay, and it's those kind of things. So I would argue that taking a leadership role is very remunerative, even though the organization itself is not paying you. And then in being in a leadership role, you get a chance to hone your leadership skills. Typically, there are people in a professional organization who have not only been in your industry a long, long time, but they've also been in leadership roles, especially if it's a large organization. So the senior leadership, may also be senior people in your industry. So they may be senior executives, or they may be, very long tenured individuals. For example, in the bar associations or the CPA associations, senior leadership tends to be those who have been in the profession for a long, long time. And so not only do they have very deep knowledge about their profession, but they probably also have a lot of experience leading teams or running a company thing. And so, especially if you are new to a profession, being part of a professional organization can give you an opportunity for mentorship outside of the firm that you work for, or if you have your own firm, it gives you again an opportunity for mentorship that you don't have within your own firm. Okay, second, you have an opportunity to develop your resume and portfolio. So especially if you're in a leadership position in a professional organization, that's something you can put on your resume, and it will enhance your professional prospects. So let's say that you're relatively new to an industry, and yet you've been able to get even an entry level leadership position in a professional organization. um, that still shows that someone has recognized your ability to lead, and you've also shown that you have the desire to do that, and so that all redounds to your to your benefit. Okay, portfolio. So as a in a professional organization, there are opportunities to give talks, and as I mentioned earlier in the learning and knowledge section, to potentially teach workshops or whatever. So that all expands the portfolio of what you've been able to do. Okay, and then third, your reputation. So by participating in a professional organization, your name is more likely to become known by others in your field. So whereas in your company, you may be a mid-level person. At the same time, if you've worked to become if you've worked your way through the leadership of a professional organization, you could be known for being, vice president of X, or president of X. So, uh, you know, well, I'm not going to use this example because I don't want to potentially embarrass someone. But in any event, being known in an industry or a profession can be very, very important, and it can and when you have a higher profile reputation, that can also bring to you opportunities that you might not otherwise have had because people don't know your name. Okay, so professional development. Okay, relationship building. So I think when people think about professional organizations, one of the first things that comes to mind is networking. So I specifically don't use that term here, and there's a reason why. Um, I think networking has become non-descriptive of the process that really needs to take place. And that's why I use the term relationship building. Okay, so it's all good and well to go to a meeting, a one-off, networking meeting or whatever, and meet a bunch of people, maybe get, for those who still often give them out business cards and all of that. In the end, that's going to have very little impact on your professional success. What's going to have impact is the building of the relationships that starts at that networking event. So networking is all fine and good, but it's only the very, very preliminary step. Okay. So what we're really looking to do is to build connections, build relationships. And in doing so, um, um, build a support network of individuals who are in our industry, in our profession, who are wrestling with similar challenges to the ones we're wrestling with, that we can share resources with, we can have conversations with, and get thoughts about how to deal with, different issues, et cetera, et cetera. And over time, build the same kind of relationships that we might have in our personal lives. Okay, and really the best business relationships are those that are friendships as well. Now, in large companies where there's a lot of corporate politics, that can sometimes be frankly difficult, because sometimes you're not sure, is does this person really have my best interests, or are they playing sort of office politics? So I think that one has to be a little more careful in situations like that. Nonetheless, the building of solid connections is a big part of being in a professional organization, and typically the regular participation in that organization, seeing people on a regular basis, communicating with them on a regular basis, that provides a forum through which these relationships can be created. Okay, and in the end, that's what it takes to build a relationship, is ongoing contact with someone, that helps you to get to know the other person better, helps you understand them better, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now, I mentioned in the last slide, mentorship. This is also a function of relationship building. So if you're a more senior person, then one of the best ways to participate in a professional organization is by offering mentorship to people who are younger, less experienced than you are, as they work their professional journey through their life. And a mentorship relationship is different than a peer relationship typically, but it can be equally as valuable. And the thing about a mentorship relationship, and it's important, I think, for us to keep this in mind, is the mentor should be getting as much out of it as the mentee. And what I mean is, the mentor should be learning and growing too. Okay. So, mentees will, I don't know, they'll sometimes send gifts or, bring cookie or whatever. I mean, that's a very nice, don't get me wrong, but that's not the kind of benefit that I'm talking about, on the mentor, for the mentor. So, as a mentee, someone who's being mentored, part of your responsibility is to be thoughtful about how you engage with your mentor. Okay. They're not just, someone for you to call when you're distressed. They're someone with whom you are exploring your professional relationship, looking to learn, and at the same time providing them with an opportunity to lead in a one-on-one sense, if you will, but also learn better how to work with younger up and comers. Okay, so each generation kind of has a different way of relating to work. They have different ways of learning because of what they've been exposed to in school, et cetera. And so that's something as a mentee that you can bring to your mentor that can help them. So a mentor-mentee relationship is a mutually beneficial relationship. It tends to it's less of a peer relationship in the sense of age peer, experience peer, etc. Okay, and then finally, job opportunities. So as you build relationships, as people get to know you, as you build your reputation in the organization, so almost inevitably job opportunities will arise. So the fact of the matter is, for all the explosion over the last, whatever it's been, 20, 25 years of online job boards and all that kind of stuff, it is still the case that the vast majority of people hired come through personal contacts. Okay, so you can post 200 resumes a day on job boards and do that day after day, week after week, month after month, and not get a job. Especially the higher quality the job, the more likely it's going to be filled through some kind of personal contact. And so if you're looking to advance your career, one of the best ways to do that is through building relationships, especially with people outside your immediate, you're outside the company for which you work, or or outside of your company. And I mean, I'm not saying that you want to hang on this all the time, but just creating those relationships, creating that reputation, inevitably they're going to come to you. Okay, next. So, some other benefits of being in a professional organization. One of them is insurance, and multiple types of insurance. So, oftentimes, professional organizations offer things like health insurance, disability insurance that you may not get at your company, or especially if you have your own business, may be much more expensive for you to buy on your own, so you can get it at a discounted rate, because it's the organization offers what amounts to almost a company plan, and so the insurance company is able to spread their risk out over a lot more people, and so therefore they can reduce the premiums. But you can also, if you're in a profession, you can get oftentimes professional liability insurance. So in my previous real estate company, I was a member of the American Society of Appraisers, the ASA, and one of the reasons was because I could get errors and omissions insurance for appraisers much more economically than I would have been without having that membership. And that's a huge, huge benefit. And so, these days, it seems like people are ever more litigious, and so having that kind of insurance is very important. Again, I think that's one of the key benefits of being a part of a professional organization. Another benefit is just discounts. So you may be able to get things like travel discounts. I know as a member of the Society of Military History, I get discounts on office supplies from Office Depot. I'm not sure why that's the case, to be honest. I mean, I know why, because Office Depot has that relationship with the SMH. But I'm not sure why Office Depot was offering it to, people who are members of that group. But I'm glad they do. It saved me money over the years. It's annoyed the people who work at Office Depot, because the little tag you get on your keychain is not scannable, so they have to punch in the numbers by hand. But small price to pay, I suppose. You can have like discounts for amusement parks or movies. I don't know. Depending on the size of the company, they can have huge. I mean, it's not size of the company. Depending on the size of the organization, they can have all kinds of discount benefits. So. And those are nice, especially if you have a family and you travel or whatever. Oftentimes you can take advantage of those discounts. And then another benefit is you have a community. So people who are in your industry, who are in your profession, as I've mentioned a few times already, they're likely to have similar challenges to yours, and it's good to be able to talk to people and who can understand what it is you're dealing with. So even if you're not actively looking for support, so to speak, knowing that support is there can provide some emotional comfort, if nothing else. And oftentimes, if something really difficult happens in your life, I think you will see members of your professional organization community kind of rally around you, help you out, that sort of thing. And that can be, again, a source of great comfort in those troubled times. And as well, it gives us an opportunity to help other people, right? Which I think is equally important. I mean, there's lots of discussions about this with the rise of social media and such, that the sense of community that people feel, indeed post COVID, has dropped significantly, and so having that there can be very important, and the opportunity to give is at least as important, if not more important, than the ability to receive. And so, I would put community as one of the key benefits of being in a professional organization or association. Okay, and so some best practices. First of all, make sure that whatever organization you join is the right organization for you. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Although as an appraiser, in my previous real estate company, as an appraiser, I belonged to the American Society of Appraisers. And I was a little bit involved in that, not a whole lot, frankly, because as I mentioned before, I did it primarily for the E&O insurance discount. The organization with which I was most active was a CPA's organization called the Credit Grantors Committee. And the reality is, I wanted to be a part of an organization that would help me enlarge my practice. And so I was the only appraiser who was involved in that group. And so when someone in the group needed an appraiser or had a situation where an appraiser was needed and they wanted to make a referral, I was pretty much it. Right. And so that for me, being in that organization was a big boost for my business. And then also, I was able to learn a lot about other areas of practice that were much more lucrative for me than I necessarily would have working for being in an organization with other appraisers. So while I liked the educational opportunities that the ASA, the American Society of Appraisers, offered, and the different books they published, etc. When it came to expanding my practice and figuring out, sort of guiding the journey I wanted to take, much more of that came from my involvement with the California Society of CPAs, and with various bar associations, because again, I did a lot of work with lawyers. So, excuse me. So I think we need to consider, why are we getting involved with an organization, and that goes back to some of the various benefits that I talked about before. Are we doing it to enhance our knowledge? Are we doing it to create relationships and grow our business? Are we doing it to build a sense of community? And in the case of the California Society CPA, I'm still friends with people I met in that organization now more than 30 years ago. In fact, one of them lives kind of up the hill from me. And we still discuss various business matters from time to time. So they've become part of my life at this point. So because, and then looking at best practice number 2. So let me skip to that, and then I'll go back to the first one. Because for you to get value from a professional association, you need to be active and engaged in what's going on. That's a big time commitment. And so to justify making that time commitment, you really need to be clear about, what do I want to get from this professional organization? Okay, or from my involvement in the professional organization. Okay, because what you're going to find is, if you're in the wrong organization, you're spending a tremendous amount of time to no avail, and that ends up being very frustrating. And then probably eventually you're going to quit. And so you would have been much better off to in the beginning maybe check out several organizations, get to know a few people a little bit and kind of see what's really going on, before you make a major commitment to the organization. So that's the phase that I'm in right now, as I'm looking at, as I mentioned, a few organizations, and deciding, which ones, or which one, do I really want to make a major commitment to, so that I can be active, I can be engaged, and I'll feel like it's worthwhile because it's helping me meet my professional goals. Okay. And so then that leads to the third best practice, which is, you need to be patient and persistent. So depending on the size of the organization, okay, if you really desire to, to move up in the organization, it really takes patience and persistence. So I'll go back to the SMH, Society for Military History. This is a national organization. It's quite large. Now, I don't aspire to holding an officership in the organization, but I become friends with someone who is now the president of the organization, and she's been a long time member. So it wasn't like she joined the group and a few years later she became the president. She worked her way up slowly but surely until now she's the president of the organization, and good for her. That patience and persistence paid off. I think that's admirable. So from a leadership standpoint, that's when it's going to take. But also from now, if you're looking to get business from being involved in an organization, again, you have to be patient and persistent. So it's unlikely that you're going to get business right off the bat. It could be 6 months, 12 months, even longer, for people to get to know you well enough, understand your business well enough, especially if you take the route that I described with my being an appraiser involved with accountants. While accountants, in general, they know what appraisers do, how exactly they can help you more broadly than, oh, I need an appraiser for this specific thing. They're not going to necessarily be familiar with that, because that's not their business. So you're going to have to help them learn that, and it's going to take time for it to kind of sink in, to build the relationship. So again, patience and persistence are really what it's going to take in order for being involved in a professional organization to bear fruit. Okay, so next, let's talk about journals. So just like with professional organizations, there are benefits to being involved. I'm going to use that term somewhat loosely, in professional journals, and there are some best practices. So one is stay informed. The first is stay informed. 2, develop expertise. 3, build relationships. There's a theme there, right? And 4, we'll talk about some other benefits, and then 5, we'll go over some best practices. So let's look at stay informed first. So a professional journal is going to be the place where the latest research, the emerging technology, and trends are first likely to be sort of codified and identified in a coherent way. So the kind of informal exchange of information and such that may happen as part of a involvement in a professional organization is going to make its way into professional journals. Okay, and oftentimes a professional organization will publish a professional journal. So I'll give you an example. Society of Military History. They publish a journal quarterly called the Journal for Military History. And in that publication, they typically have 3 long research pieces on various aspects of military history, and then several dozen book reviews on recently published books. Okay. And I know my earliest sort of active involvement in the Society for Military History was writing book reviews for that journal. It just so happened that I had written some encyclopedia articles for the editor at the Journal for Military History, who was in charge of doling out who's going to write which book reviews. He was the book review editor, basically. And so after I wrote those articles for the encyclopedia he was editing, he asked me if I'd be interested in, doing some book reviews. And I thought it'd be fun. Now, by the way, one of the cool things about doing a book review is you get a copy of the book for free. So for a bibliophile like me, that was great. I was able to build up my library a little bit. And it was also fun. And it was a way sometimes of knowing about sort of knowledge and research trends that were happening in the field before they were, at least generally known to the public. So these are all parts of following, and I follow a couple of history professional journals, and one of the reasons I do so is to find out not only what's going on in terms of trends in historical research, et cetera, but also what's going on in terms of research in the areas that are of most interest to me. So, what are the leading topics in World War II research? What are the leading topics in library and museum history research? That sort of thing. Okay, so sort of like professional journals, many organizations also have periodic newsletters, oftentimes quarterly. So those aren't really a journal per se, but they are. They're typically keeping you up to date with happenings in the organization, but sometimes these quarterly bulletins will also touch on emerging technology, latest research trends, et cetera. And so we'll talk about this more under best practices, but which one of these are you going? Which one of the thousands upon thousands, maybe tens of thousands of professional journals are you going to follow? Because generally speaking, just like with organizations, you're going to want to find one or maybe two that you read on a regular basis. Okay, next. So develop expertise. So I remember, again, this is going back to my first business. One of the things I was in, while I was in the real estate business, I also had a very keen interest in the entertainment business. And so I wanted to expand my knowledge. And the way I did, so I was talking to a friend of mine about that. And what he told me is, he said, read one of the trades every day, cover to cover. Okay. And that's what I did. I started reading Daily Variety, which is one of the two best known entertainment business trade publications, the other being The Hollywood Reporter. At the time, they were print publications. And I would get it every morning and I would read it pretty much cover to cover. And pretty quickly, within about a year, I had a very, I think, a reasonably in-depth knowledge for someone who was not actively involved in the business yet. I had some tangential involvement, but I wasn't active on a day-to-day basis. And that allowed me then to get involved in a more solid way. So reading regularly a professional publication, a professional journal, will help you build your knowledge base. It will also stimulate critical thinking. So especially if it's a research article, that sort of thing. So, as you read these, do they make sense? Do they align with your experience? If they don't align with your experience, why might that be? Is there something going on in your practice that's different than what the writer of the article in that journal experienced? Or maybe the writer actually, he didn't research his topic well, something like that. So just because it's printed in a professional publication, it can't be necessarily taken at face value. And since you're involved in the industry as well, you'll have the knowledge base to really look at what's being presented and approach it from the standpoint of how valid does this appear to me? Okay. Finally, I think the next point is going to get into that a little bit more. So that's why I'm going to stop on that there. Also, I don't want to run out of time. So also, you can publish articles. So as I was saying, with the Journal for Military History, I wrote book reviews. It was fun. It was interesting. And through publishing my own writing, it gave me the confidence to look to get published in other areas. So whereas my earliest professional writing, aside from like a self-published newsletter, was basically oriented around military history, the fact that I was able to do these articles. In the case of the encyclopedia articles, I did get compensated, interestingly enough. I didn't think I was going to. I got a free set of the encyclopedias along with, they were like sort of gift certificates to buy more books from the publisher, which for me was as good as money, because this particular publisher had a line of books I was very interested in buying, but they were kind of expensive. And so, with these gift certificates, I was able to buy the whole range of books. So on the basis of that, I felt like I could, go on and write other things, which I did. I started, I first expanded into more sort of general articles on military policy. I did several of those. And since then, I've written on some other topics. So I think I mentioned last week, I've got a new website in the offing. And so once that website is up, you can go to the publications section. You can see the kind of stuff I did. I think the most recent thing was I wrote a letter for the Wall Street Journal that got published. And for me, that was a big thing. I mean, I'd love to get an article published in the Wall Street Journal, frankly. But even just to have the letter published was very cool. And I even got a text message from my former running partner saying, "Wow, I saw your piece in the Wall Street Journal. It was great," kind of thing. So it was neat. And so, this is a good place to get started if you have the writing bug. And want to do something along those lines. I've also written a book. I'm working on, actually a friend of mine is working on a publisher for it. So this is another way of developing your expertise, your ability to communicate in writing. Okay, next. So again, build relationships. This is, fairly similar to what we talked about in being a part of an organization. In this case, though, there's a couple ways you can build relationships with by reading professional journals. So one is, and I've done this many times in the past, is to reach out to people who have written pieces that you find interesting, that you like, that you have questions about. What I've found is, in general, the writers welcome my contacting them. Okay, now, by the way, they don't always take it seriously. I won't give the name of the one that still stands out of my mind as being, pretty dismissive and rude about my contacting him on his piece, but whatever, that's how some people are. But in other cases, I've reached out to authors, and we have actually created relationships. One that jumps to mind, and all of a sudden I've gone up on his name, Stephen. I can't think of his last name. Anyway, he wrote a book on journalism in World War II. It's called The War. It's still called The War Beat Europe. It's a wonderful book, and I just looked up his name and found he's a professor at the London School of Economics, and I sent him an email saying I've just read your book, or just finished reading your book, really enjoyed it. It's a fascinating topic, and I thought it was written very, very well. I think I asked him a question or two about it, and lo and behold, he responded, and we sometimes subsequent to that actually met face to face. Well, not face to face literally, but virtually in a Zoom meeting, and we talked. Since then we've done that a few other times, and it turned out he was writing a second book called The War Beat Pacific, and he asked me if I would read the book and give him input on it to improve it, because since I had been in the military, I had that perspective. I've been in the American military. He's a Britisher, and he thought that would be useful. And indeed, I agreed to. It was great. It was really fun being able to read a book in galleys, which is meaning in the pages before it's published. And lo and behold, very, very nice of him. He acknowledged me in the acknowledgments of the book, which is, that's kind of nice. I mean, I didn't do it for that reason. I assure you, I did it because we were building a relationship, and I wanted to help him out, and I was interested in the subject. So that's one way that you can build relationships, is by reaching out to people whose work you like and respect. And another is by being a part of the team that produces the journal, or produces content for the journal, getting to know some of the key players, the editors, etc. Like I mentioned with the Journal for Military History, and in that way, you have an opportunity to meet key players within the journal, or if the journal is part of an organization, then within the organization as well. So you're building a different kind of relationship typically than you might in an organization among the sort of general membership. Because this is probably going to be based on some kind of intellectual interest in your industry or profession. Okay, and again, it can be very, very fulfilling and really help you develop your knowledge. Okay, I think we got a couple more slides. Yeah. Okay, so other benefits of reading and being involved in the production of a professional journal. First of all, you're going to improve your written communication skills. So the various book reviews that I've written, the various articles that I've written, they're always subject to editing by people who, even if they're doing it on a voluntary basis, are professionals at editing and such. And so the quality of my writing has improved over the years. It's been a lot of years now that I've been doing this. I think about 15, 20 years that I've been doing these various writing projects. And as well, my desire to improve my writing skills has also risen, because I want to keep making my writing better and better and better. So that's I think a key benefit. Another is problem solving. So by writing about an issue that you're facing in your practice or in your business, oftentimes you can figure out a way to solve a problem, either because you'll need to do research on the problem and dive into information and such that perhaps you hadn't considered before, or you'll have to work through it, and that process of working through it will lead you to some kind of solution. And so the whole writing process, depending on the subject, of course, is oftentimes a problem-solving process. And so if you're writing an article, for sure, you have that opportunity. But even reading a journal, you'll get new ideas about how you could potentially solve or deal with various challenges in your practice or in your industry, in your business. And so that is a big benefit. And finally, confidence. So being familiar with a key source of information for your industry, that alone will likely give you confidence going forward, number one. But especially if you decide to participate in it, the confidence you get from writing, being published, or if you get into the editorial staff of reviewing other people's writing and working with them to make it better, all of that builds your own confidence, and that is really a great side benefit. And in fact, if as I was talking about, I mentioned this as I was talking about doing the encyclopedia articles and the book reviews. It gave me the confidence then to go on and do other types of writing that I'm not sure I would have attempted to do had I not had that earlier experience. Like writing a book. I'm not sure writing a book is a lot of work. It's a great experience. But had I not had those other writing experiences, which also led me to start my own blog and to be a regular blogger for many years, all of that gave me the confidence then to write a book. Okay, and we're gonna run out of time here in a minute, so I'm gonna go ahead quickly on. Okay, so we're going to talk about some best practices. So, like with deciding about which organization or organizations to be involved with, the journals you want to read and follow need to be relevant to your practice. Now, you're probably not going to get business from being involved in a journal or from reading a journal. So in this case, the journals you read, should focus on the industry in which you're a part, and help you expand your knowledge, expand your ability to solve problems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, having and there are, as I mentioned in the beginning, thousands, if not tens of thousands, of journals. So before you settle on which one or two or three maybe that you're going to follow on a regular basis, keeping in mind oftentimes they can be expensive to subscribe to, you really want to see the whole range of what's out there, so that you can then focus your time and attention on the most relevant journals. Okay, so Um, in my case, there isn't a professional fiduciaries journal yet, but they do I believe it's a quarterly newsletter, so I read that. There are bulletins issued by the state of California. I read those, and that's where that is. One of the things I'm looking at now is finding the best professional journal or two that deals with trust and estate issues beyond the professional fiduciary realm to continue to increase my knowledge in that respect. And as you might imagine, there's quite a number of them. So finding the one that's going to be best, I want to take some time to do that, the one that's going to be most relevant to my practice. Okay, and then finally, engage in the ways that I've been talking about. Engage with the writers, engage with the editorial staff, ask questions, suggest topics for articles. Just beware that if you're suggesting topics, the response you might get is, yeah, we like that topic. Why don't you write it? Okay, they may take it as an article query, which wouldn't be a bad thing, by the way. And by the way, another way to engage in a journal is to do a formal query. A query is it's basically a letter of interest or an email of interest to the publication about having you write an article on a particular subject. And I guess maybe in another show I can talk about how to do queries and that sort of thing. So. Engage in and again, engage with the writers, engage with the editorial staff. Okay, and I think that's it for the slides. So, you know what? And I realized I forgot to put this in. Where do you find professional organizations? Where do you find journals? And the simplest thing is, well, there are two main places I would go. One is you can do an internet search and just search, your industry and professional organization, or just your industry and organization. So let's say you're into cybersecurity. Okay. So cybersecurity professional organizations, just search that and you're going to get, a list of whatever ones are out there. Okay. If you're, an accountant, there's going to be a state accountants, at least one estate accounting professional organization, sometimes more than one. But there's also going to be organizations that are more specialized focused. So if you're a tax accountant, there's probably a tax accounting, specialty organization. As well as in the large organization, there's probably a section for tax accountants. Okay. So that's where to find organizations. Another place to find them is to go to LinkedIn and find a group in LinkedIn on your profession, on your industry, etc. And then ask people, join the group and ask people in the group, what are the professional organizations out there that they might recommend? Okay. And they'll tell you. There's probably a reasonable chance officers from these organizations are part of the group. And one of the things that's always uppermost in an officer's mind is increasing membership. So they're going to be happy to tell you about it and help you find information. Okay. And essentially the same applies with journals. So if you're looking for journals, you can do an internet search. You can go to a LinkedIn group and ask them about professional journals. You can go to libraries, go to a business library, like at your local university. If they have a business school, they'll have a business library. You can probably go down there. You may not be able to take them out, but you can look at them there in the library and see what journals are there, as well as talk to the reference librarians about different journals out there, and the reference librarians can help you. Nowadays, a lot of reference librarian services are available online, so you don't necessarily have to go to the library. So for example, if you're in the entertainment business, you can contact the Academy Film Library, which is located here in Los Angeles on the corner of, I think it's Olympic and La Cienega. I don't remember the name of the building, but anyway, you can, I think you can email the librarians. I know you can call them. And if you're looking for professional journals or trade journals in the entertainment business, in this case specifically the film business, they'll be happy to help you. So think about those kinds. Those are some examples to use, but you can always refocus those same kinds of things into your own industry. Okay, and just dovetailing on that, if you have any questions or you want some help finding relevant professional organizations or professional journals, feel free to drop me an email or put a comment into social media. All these links will be in the show notes after the show posts. So I'm happy to help you out. One of the reasons I know about reference librarians is because I have a degree in library and information science, and so I'm happy to put those skills into your service in helping you find these out if you would like. And then I think the final slide is, as always, the legal stuff, right? There we go, the legal stuff. So, okay. Go ahead and stop this, go back to the regular thing. So I thank you very much for joining me. I would absolutely encourage you, find at least one professional organization to get involved with, find at least one professional journal to follow and really learn from, no matter what your business is. Now, I've been using the term professional, but if you're an electrician, or you're in more of a so-called trade business, a plumber, those kind of things, there are still organizations out there. First of all, you may have a union, and a union is kind of is essentially a professional organization. It's just of a different form, and it has additional purposes to it besides knowledge and networking, that kind of stuff. Now, having said that, if I were in a construction trades, especially like a plumber, electrician, those kind of things, while it's fine to be a part of the union and all of that, I would recommend that you get involved in like some kind of real estate organization where you're going to meet a lot of real estate agents, property managers, people like that who need services like the kind that you offer. Okay, or a building, if you don't do repairs, but you do new construction, so then get involved in a building construction. There are different, I can't think of the name of the organization. There's a national organization of multifamily residence builders, and I think they have some local chapters as well. They certainly have a publication. I used to read it. I think it was a monthly publication back when I had my real estate company. So, look for professional organizations to be involved with where your customers or clients, or your professional customers, potential, I should say, clients or customers may be, and become a part of them, and really get involved, really engage. Okay, so again, thank you very much for viewing. This is our final show for the week, so I'm going to wish you not only a great rest of the day, but a wonderful rest of the week as well. Next week, we start again at 10 a.m. Monday Pacific time with Trust and Estates Weekly. Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time is Business Lessons from the Military, and then 7 days from today, we'll be back with the next edition of People Making Money. And I know I have some guests coming up next week. Off the top of my head, I don't remember them. I believe a week from today is my guests will be Aaron and Kelsey Holtzman. Now, you may remember Aaron was a guest on my show several weeks ago. He's an entrepreneurial accountant based in Austin, Texas. And at the end of the show, or maybe this was after the show concluded, Aaron and I were talking about what it was like to start a business when you're married. And so we're going to explore that subject, and I invite you to join us for that. because it's really an important topic. If you're already in business, I think you'll learn from the interaction between Aaron and Kelsey as they talk about how they dealt with the various challenges. And if you're a business owner and you're not married, and maybe you're a little bit apprehensive about getting married, so then I also encourage you to watch this show, because I think you will find that Aaron and Kelsey being married was not a hindrance to their professional success. Rather, it was a support to their professional success. So I invite you, I encourage you to tune in a week from today. So one last time, thanks again for watching. All the best to you, and signing off as I always do. Marie, you're my bell. All the best, folks.